because it's only united and together that we'll be able to turn this thing around, because we can't do it alone. I can't do it, but I'll tell you, hand in hand with each and every one of you, we can. Thank you very much for bringing this for us.
We have a few minutes still that we can go on, but I'm going to have to say maybe, what, 2-3 questions, and then after that, I'm sure we'll still be milling about, but if there are a few more questions.
On a slightly different note, the whole sale is based on the fact that Quebec Hydro has loads of surplus power. Now, what happens if they don't? Now, the Churchill Falls deal went out around
2040.
2040. In December of last year, the Newfoundland government filed to try to get rid of that deed. And if they are successful in court, I think we could be rid, they could be rid of it by 2013. How would that affect things if they couldn't get that Churchill Falls? Because I heard the assumption here that they have tons of power from Churchill Falls, but they're not going to have it forever, and this deal is forever.
They have the surplus power is not only from Churchill Falls. As we know, Quebec decided to at that time was, don't get excited, nationalized the hydropower. The word was not well used here in the Brunswick. Essentially, the sector was characterized by private corporations owning a lot of dams, and essentially, when the government bought those private companies, that's nationalization. So essentially, Quebec nationalized the hydro sector. We said that, well, if so many companies are making so much money, it should maybe be a crown corporation who owns those dams, and therefore the crown corporation will make some money, therefore the population of Quebec will make some money. So that's how Hydro-Quebec got big into the hydro sector. And then once the crown corporation was created, they engaged in a long-term process of economic development in the energy sector by building dams. And they've done that up to now on the Bay James, on the Forum-QandA dams, creating jobs in rural areas. It takes about 10-12 years to build a hydro dam. So huge economic benefit of building the dams, and then they've got power for 50, 100 years with no fuel. So that process is still ongoing as we speak right now. So they've built a series of dams on the La Romaine River, and these dams will be ramping up and be operational in the 10-year period starting from now. It's going to ramp up. I don't have in my head all the number in terms of capacity, but there's going to be a lot of dams, new dams that are being constructed right now will supply that power. We've seen there's various numbers. Some are contradictory, so that's why I don't like to use them too much now. But there's at least surplus power until 2019, at which point all the dams in construction will be built. So therefore, will still increase the surplus power. The surplus power is above the 14 terawatt hour right now, and should also increase in time. So for them, on 1 or 2 generations, 50 years, I'd be surprised that they could not supply the power. But beyond that, the hypothesis is that new forms of energy will be available.
But is Newfoundland building power dams as well?
Yeah, well,
and if we didn't take this deal, wouldn't we be wise to be nice to them?
Yeah, and a power purchase agreement with a term would appear to be much more interesting, because once the term is finished, then there's other options, and there's new forms of energy being developed, all of them in the renewable energy sector, wind energy, solar power. And just an example of what can happen if you've got a good energy policy, and if you truly believe that you want to create an energy hub. Ontario defined a program that was called the Green Energy Act, and with an objective of developing the energy sector not only to generate electricity from renewable sources, but also to create jobs, both in terms of construction, operation of plants, but also manufacturing jobs. And the objective is to create 50,000 jobs in the next few years. And they've put in place a policy that will allow that. And about 2 weeks ago, there was a major announcement. Samsung from South Korea, a very solid company, is going to Ontario and will invest $7 billion in building wind farms, solar parks, and also implementing manufacturing industries in Ontario as a first step of this Green Energy Act. So you see, and Quebec is similar. You don't only look at the energy sector to generate electricity, but you look at the energy sector to create economic prosperity as a whole.
If I could add a little information, I understand that the output from Churchill Falls over the period of a year is 35 terawatt hours. That is one heck of a lot. And the surplus that Hydro-Quebec is projecting out for quite a few years into the future is in the order of 20 terawatt hours or a little more. So the loss of Churchill Falls would be hugely disruptive. Also, Churchill Falls, by one study, was responsible for 3/4 of all of Hydro-Quebec's profits. Hydro-Quebec makes a profit of around 25% of their revenue. Take all of the revenues, 25% of that is profit, and they pay a couple of $1 billion a year in dividends to the Quebec government. So the sale of Hydro-Quebec to some private company doesn't seem very likely to me.
Another thing, further to the Churchill Falls thing, this deal shuts the door to Newfoundland.
Yes, yes.
They can't sell it anywhere else in North America if this deal goes through.
Bad time to have a heart attack.
Other questions? Well, then if I can have 5 seconds, I'll 6 because I'm a prop. I remember a certain premier standing up and telling me about self-sufficiency and hearing the words, the status quo isn't an option. Then an old president of a certain institution that UNBSJ will go nameless, came back and told me that the way we run our education in this province, the status quo is not an option. I learned something then, that the status quo wasn't an option, because you and I and others marched. We said, you're right, it's not an option. The way we were doing it was wrong. But you don't have a better way. We have a better way. We've heard tonight that imagine this, we can come up with a better way. Do we want it to be the same way? Not necessarily. But we want it to be our way, the way we can buy it, because we're a province. And I think that, you know, normally it's appropriate, and I should invite Greg up here and Rod, who's helped us with camera, because we've all worked on this together. And so Greg, take the picture, but then come on up beside me. Greg, come on up. Rod,
yeah, this is what we do. This is what we do. When we're a community, this is what we do. We get together.
Normally I'd say, you know, thank you to these people who helped organize, but I think that we owe you the applause, because it's you, it's not us that can fix the problem. It's you that fixes the problem. I'm there. We're there. It's you that fixes it. And from us, I'm going to start it. Thank you to you. Rob's going to stand up. The labor that's going to stand up. I'd like to thank all these people, Rod and Greg. Thank you.